Next, we have messages from USC leadership, and we'll get started with Gaurav, who's the inaugural director of the School for Advanced Computing, who will be saying a few words.
Thanks so much, Phoebe. And thanks to the case leadership for inviting me to come say a few words today. A little bit odd if I don't keep turning this way, so excuse me if I sort of speaking this way. Some of you know the background to this, but for those you don't, I thought it might be useful to provide some information on this new school that we've just created at USC and how we expect it to start going about its business and what effect and impact we think it'll have. So my guess is that you've all seen that USC is embarking on a big new initiative, a presidential initiative called the Frontiers of Computing. And so this is a university-wide presidential initiative that really seeks to put computing at the forefront or become one of the pillars of something important that the university takes a leadership position in. And so this is a big initiative. It has many components to it. And one component of this initiative is the creation of this new school called the School of Advanced Computing. Now, USC has many schools. Before this School of Advanced Computing was created, there were 22 schools at USC. Two of them are very prominently represented in CASE and have historically been the mainstays of CASE. But there are many schools at USC. And so the purpose of this new School of Advanced Computing is to really knit together our efforts as a university across all areas of computing into some sort of coherent whole. And this is going to be fueled by two things. One is the hiring of a substantial number of new faculty in computing across disciplines. So that's number one. And number two, by the creation of new interdisciplinary programs for students at the undergraduate and graduate levels that are computing focused, but have a tie to all the disciplines that USC has expertise in. So we expect that seen through a computing lens, it'll allow the university to take a increased leadership position in many of the disciplines that it already enjoys a significant position. So that's sort of the mission of the school. There are a few ancillary things that are happening which are now sort of folded into the bigger school picture. So one of the constituent departments of the school is the Department of Computer Science, and it's moving into a new building, which is coming up just behind you. So that's sort of nice. We tell the story as though we had planned that all along. Clearly, the building didn't just start getting built 2 months ago, but I think in happy times, these stories are reasonable to tell. It is a happy coincidence that this is happening at exactly the same time. So what do we think? What do we think? Sort of the new footprint of computing across the university is going to do to change the university? Well, we have some learnings, right? And one of the key learnings comes from CASE. CASE was set up several years ago when there was no School of Computing. But it was a deliberate effort on the parts of faculty in social work and engineering to set up a cross-school center and to really run it as a cross-school center. There's student participation and faculty participation from two schools, and then also now over time from some other schools. That really is one of the emblems of how we think interdisciplinary or cross-disciplinary can be done. We intend to, for want of a better phrase, replicate this success in other disciplines. So the mechanism for doing this is being worked out, but our vision is to recruit faculty that belong in groups where they have shared research. So computing as it impacts health, or computing as it impacts society, or computing as it impacts medicine, or computing as it impacts the arts and humanities, may be examples of where faculty groups can come together, irrespective of which department they get hired into. And our intention is to replicate the CASE success across many such computing and X disciplines at the university, and to use the faculty recruitment funds to recruit faculty into these groups, irrespective of which department their home department is in. Right? So that's sort of the strategy, is to pick centers like CASE as successful examples that were grassroots done And we're good at forging cross-school boundaries and to really get an engine going so we can do this in other areas as well. So that's going to be our plan. It's a very unusual way to run a school because schools generally have their own procedures and their own disciplines and their own bureaucracy and their own hierarchy. We think we've got 22 of those. We're going to do the 23rd one a little bit differently. It is really intended to bring computing expertise to all facets of the university. Now, in terms of student programs, what this really means is that CASE has one of the most vibrant undergraduate student programs of any cross-disciplinary center at the university. So there's some learnings to be taken from that as well. We expect some of these other affinity groups to create student programs of their own, not necessarily to replicate everything that CASE did, but to certainly learn from it. So we think there are a lot of opportunities to really learn from and build out other successful models of the same type. In terms of conventional teaching, in-classroom teaching, we have some plans to expand the reach of in-classroom teaching about computing to all students at USC. So I'm going to go out on a limb here. Not every faculty colleague of mine agrees, but I will say it. I think to be an educated person in the 21st century means to understand something about computation. I think it is the water, the electricity, the air of our time. And it is important as an educated person to understand how it works, what it is, what harms it can have, what benefits it can have. And this really has nothing to do with being a computer scientist. This is as true about people who work in any discipline as it is for people who work in computer science or one of the engineering disciplines. In many ways, CASE embodied that early on. There is an ethos about taking interesting and difficult problems and engaging with them. And if the way you engage with those problems and the way you try to help is through computation, then that computational lens has something to offer. But in order to offer it, you create a new kind of educated person, not somebody who simply sees computing as an application or applications to society as applications, but rather to see them holistically as something worth engaging with intellectually. The tools come from where they need to come from, right? We would like this ethos to become pervasive at USC. We think many things can benefit from this, right? And so that's sort of where we are headed with the creation of the new school. We think that a lot of new students will enjoy this challenge. There'll be some interesting new programs for students to engage with. And we're hopeful of many good things to come. The school is formally only 2 months old. So other than me showing a lot of slides and saying these words to people and other people slowly starting to say the same words, not a whole lot else has happened. So maybe if you invite me back in a year, I'll be able to say some more concrete things like new faculty we've hired or new programs we've stood up and so on. But this is where we are headed. And the other thing is CASE faculty are going to become key ambassadors for the new school. And so if you participate regularly in CASE as a faculty member, then you will have several opportunities to shape the creation of these affinity groups and the hiring of new faculty. If you're a student, then you should be, if you have strong feelings on new program creation or ideas, you should talk about them, bring them to the attention of the CASE leadership, because they have a substantial say in how some of these new programs are going to get architected. So feedback is really welcome, and it's likely very effective at these early stages before things become, well, I was going to say things become fossilized. But this new school is vibrant. So I'm not going to say that. So pretend that I never said that. And so that's really what I wanted to say. Just think of Frontiers as a big initiative. My lens on it is through the school, so I've restricted my remarks to the school. If you get other people here, they'll tell you about other things that are happening in Frontiers. It's an exciting time for the university to make advances in some of these moonshots, and we're very happy that the kinds of things that people here find exciting form a central part of this initiative. So anyway, thank you so much for having me.